Being a woman is tough. Women of Excellence with Janee Hill encourages, equips, and empowers women with real solutions to real issues. From business to family, to health and relationships, work-life balance. If women face it, we address it with heart, humor, and a hands-on approach. Women of Excellence, where laughter meets tough love as we do life together.
What is the craziest thing your spouse has ever done or made you do? Hi, I'm Janee, and today I have my husband, Randy Hill, on, and he's just looking at me. If you were listening last week, we talked about the crazies with one of my friends and heard about some of the crazy antics we had done. And I loved getting comments about some of the things, or messages rather, about some of the crazy things you and your friends have done. Keep those coming at Real Janee Hill. So I thought I would continue this discussion on craziness with the craziest thing your spouse has done. And little sneak peek, I dare say the craziest thing I've ever done, Randy's going to say it probably happened this weekend.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we'll tell you about that in a minute. But Randy, tell us about you. Crazy.
The craziest things that you've ever done?
Sure. Or tell us about you and craziest thing you think you've ever done.
Oh, my stuff is pretty crazy, but your stuff is even crazier. Let's see. One thing that you did that was totally crazy. We went to Florida with her family on vacation. This was years ago.
Okay.
And she's pregnant when we go to Florida. And we get home and have a baby. And she tells me, she says, "Oh, by the way, I have invited this random girl that was our waitress in Florida that she thought was really a nice girl. She's invited her to come live with us." And she accepted.
So we had a little baby at home.
Little infant.
In a 2-bedroom condo in downtown Fort Worth, Texas.
It was a cool condo. But
and then Kate.
Yeah.
And it was fun when we're a blended family. So when we had the 3 girls come in and Kate and the baby, woo, good times.
Yeah.
That was crazy.
That was crazy.
Mm-hmm. You know, as I am sitting here looking at you, you're very handsome, by the way.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. But it makes me think.
I'm noticing on the screen, if I really look at myself, my lips look very pink. It must have something to do with the color aspect that you're running tonight.
No, I think actually that's one of the craziest things you've ever done. You had your lips done.
Oh, I forgot about that.
No, he didn't really have his lips done.
That's why I didn't remember it. I didn't have it done.
But one of the crazy things Randy did, I had a friend and she owned a waxing boutique. And Randy,
I did not go get waxed.
You did.
My eyebrows. That's different than what people think of waxing. I didn't get a Brazilian.
So he goes to get his eyebrows waxed and it's taking forever. And I was like, what is going on in there? Maybe he did decide for the Brazilian. But no, what Randy had done was he had decided to have his eyelashes tinted. So he came out looking like he had makeup on. And do your eyes like you did. He put his hand on his hip and he's like, how do I look?
Do you notice anything different? It accentuated my eyes. And what was even funnier was I was working with some guys at Mercedes-Benz, and one of the head sales directors, when you've had your eyes done, it looks like mascara. It's you highlight your eyelashes.
You keep disappearing as you do that.
Oh, I'm sorry. Excuse me. I'm the thin man. I keep, Daisy. Hi. But anyway, one of the sales directors that I worked with, he had his done. I go, "Hey man, who does your eyes?" He says, "What are you talking about? I don't have my eyes. What are you doing?" I said, "Man, come on now. Tell me the truth." He didn't want to admit that he had his eyelashes done.
So it's funny to me that Randy is on one hand very metrosexual. So that means he really
What,
cares.
what does
It means
metrosexual
that you
mean?
like really care about how you look. I mean, I think you do.
How do I care about what I look? What do I do?
Well, like having your eyebrows done, your eyelashes,
Well, the eyebrow thing was your idea because I had big bushy eyebrows.
and now you have big bushy ear hairs.
Well, a pair of tweezers and a nice little pair of hands like around your neck right now are the ones that can take care of that.
All right. So seriously, Randy, I was saying he's very funny because he's like a metrosexual. So he cares what he looks like and
I
all
don't like
that.
word.
And then on the other side of the equation,
Heterosexual.
he's a very manly man. I'm not saying you metrosexuals aren't, but he's a very manly man. And he can come up with like a way to do anything. And so sometimes we call him the Randy man because he is like a very handy man. We moved into a house and it had been vacant for like 3+ years. The pool had a cover over it, so we didn't know what it looked like under there. Well, we pull off the cover and it is just,
it was a swamp.
it
was totally
things
green.
swimming.
There were fish in there. There were those great big old huge tadpoles that are like the size of a quarter or a little bit bigger. It was nasty. Frogs, and there were literally small fish growing in this swimming pool. So I decided to, so I went and borrowed a sump pump from a friend of mine that would like suck out sludge. And so I started draining the pool and it got down to the deep end. And then so I said, well, I'm gonna get the power washer and I'm gonna go down in there. Well, I stepped off the first step and man, it was slippery. So there's a telephone pole close to the back porch. So I took a garden hose, a big long garden hose, and I tied a knot around the telephone pole. And then I tied a knot, kind of a slip knot around my waist. And I stripped down to my underwear.
So picture this. And I realize Randy's very, I don't know what word I was going to use, but again, he's in his underwear with a garden hose tied around his waist. And he's tied the garden hose to a telephone pole and he's repelling our swimming pool.
Mm-hmm. With a shop vac. With a shop vac that had to be careful that I didn't get electrocuted.
Yeah. And then what were you doing with the shop vac?
I was sucking out the sludge at the very bottom of the deep end.
So, I mean, if you can just imagine.
Hey, I've got pictures before and after, and I've got pictures of me in the pool with the sludge and I think I have
a picture of you from afar. You didn't know that RH and I were watching RH, our son, and you were in your skibbies. Mm-hmm. So I could maybe post that picture at Real Janee Hill. Yeah. That'd be funny. Yeah. Would be. All right. So crazy things. All right.
Why don't you give one?
I've just given several. Okay. Do you have any?
Let's see here.
I mean, there was the time that the roads were icy and we had a gate at our home. Ooh. And on his way out.
Well, it was a big storm was coming. This was probably in 2013, the winter of 2013. Big storm's coming. It's going to be icy for a couple of days. We're in West Texas. And so we lived up on top of a hill. So Janee says, you better go to the store, but in case we get frozen in. So Macy and I
Macy's our middle daughter.
Get in Janee's car and we start heading for the grocery store.
Keyword Janee's car, not Randy's car, Janee's car.
So we start heading for the grocery store and
the house had a gate. They slid into the gate on the ice, but no, that did not stop them. They continued going in the ice.
And down the hill, the car lost control and started spinning in circles.
My car.
And it ran into a tree and almost into the pond.
Yeah. So that was maybe a crazy, stupid thing. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's a good thing I've done nothing crazy.
Wow. Okay. So the craziest thing that you have ever done was this weekend.
What?
Mm-hmm. Okay. So we, as many of you know, we have a blended family. We have 3 daughters from my first marriage, ages 24, 20, and just turned 16. So they're 4 years apart. The 16-year-old, of course, got her driver's license on Wednesday.
You can't say of course, because in
That's
this
true.
day and
And, yeah,
age,
kids
not
don't
every
drive.
16-year-old wants
Ford
to
Motor
drive.
Company is
which
very concerned about that.
So weird to me. Anyway.
So anyway, she turned 16. It's time for her to get her first car.
Woo.
And so earlier this summer, Janee said, hey, why don't we make a suggestion to get her to buy her first car for Maggie? So Janee reached out to my ex-wife and said, look, we'd like to give her a car. Perfect. That's a great idea. We'd love that. So all summer long, we've thought about it. We've contemplated it. Well, a couple of months ago, Janee comes up with a great idea for a birthday party for Maggie. And so she decides that she's going to invite Maggie and Macy, our middle daughter, who's 20, and Miranda, and let Maggie bring her friends, and they'll all come up, spend the night.
Good lake fun. You know,
Yeah,
Nocona is
It is
small
awesome.
town,
It is
big
small
fun.
town, small
That's
town,
their
big fun.
tagline. Mhm.
And so your gateway to get away.
Right. That's
And
Nocona
so,
Hills.
so anyway, she decided that she would invite for this trip. But she also decided that she would invite. Go ahead.
His ex-wife. And it wasn't a day trip. So I invited his ex-wife to stay with us in our house. And she said yes, which was just shocking.
Yeah.
And the reason that was shocking is Randy and his ex-wife were married. How long?
22 years.
22 years. Randy and I got married in 5 weeks and 6 days from the time we met to the time we married. And
which we do not suggest.
No, we look back and we were like, this was not a wise decision on multiple levels. No, but the good news is, I think God's worked it all out.
Mm-hmm.
Probably he wouldn't have planned it that way. But anyway, but I say that to say it's been really tough with the ex-wife. As you can imagine, she's very protective of her girls. And at the time they were 7, 11, and 14. Also, I am a recovering control girl, sometimes recovering. And I hadn't really parented before.
Would that be called actively recovering?
I don't know. Sure.
Okay.
But it's something I had never done before. And so I was maybe really black and white with the girls, extremely hard on them, you know, just caused lots of heartache. So we've not exactly had the best relationship. And then during COVID, one of our daughters graduated from high school and only 2 people were allowed. So it was mom and dad. And so that we've just had some really difficult moments. And I'm sure if you are a stepmom or
but they invited me
stepmom,
to the after party at my ex-wife's house
without this wife.
And so I went.
Without this wife.
Right. So again, when you make the decision to get a divorce, you're making a decision that's going to impact you for the rest of your life, over and over and over again. And you look back and you go, if I had things to do over again, I don't know that I'd make the same decisions. However, we are fortunate. I feel very fortunate to have Janee as my spouse. And so I'll get off of preaching for a little bit. But
I thought you were going to spout out Romans 8:28. We know the Lord works all things together for the good of those who love him and are called according to his purpose. Right. There's a little scripture lesson for you today.
Right. So now that we've done that, so leading up to this weekend,
lots of stress.
Oh yeah.
And
we're going through some stuff here in our community that's very, very stressful. All kinds of stuff. So we had stress on, I was telling Janee tonight at dinner, I said, man, I'm so grateful. I'm so thankful that it's Sunday night and we have a new week starting tomorrow as far as a new work week, and we're going fresh into a Monday. And I'm glad to see this last week behind us.
Yeah. But building up to this weekend, it was super stressful. As you can imagine, they're teenagers. So the number of people changes, the plan changes, then it might be canceled. I mean, all kinds of perhaps drama. And you add that on top of, like he said, stress we already had going on, and just my emotions were heightened. There's a girl I walk with almost daily, and our walks through the week leading up to this weekend, our pace was way faster and we were burning more calories because I was totally stressed. But what I love about my walking buddy is she doesn't tell me what I want to hear. She really speaks truth into me. And so she was like, you know what, Janee, your faith is so important to you, and you can love the Lord by serving him well, by serving the ex-wife. And I don't know if you're like me, but like I come up with these really good ideas, like inviting the ex-wife to stay overnight. And then I start second guessing myself and like, what was I thinking? That's the craziest thing ever.
And then she takes it out on me.
Yeah. And so this weekend is coming up, and our youngest daughter that we're having the party for she's not really responding to my text, which I take really personally. And she's just being a teenager who just got a license and she's out having fun. It's not that there was anything wrong. And so then this weekend comes, and how did it go?
It was awesome.
It really was.
It really was.
And what made it awesome for you, Randy?
This may have been uncomfortable for you to hear the banter going back, but it was
the banter between Randy and his ex-wife.
No, and well, really the girls saying, Daddy, do you remember when we did this? Daddy, do you remember when we did this? Do you remember that person that did this? And then Shelly, my ex-wife, would say, oh, you remember so-and-so? Have you heard about what happened with them and where they're living and what they're, and so it was really.
And meanwhile, I'm just,
it was like the sensation I have is like, now we're not on heightened, stressful.
But what I want to say about that is, as the current wife, I'm sitting there. I don't know any of these people that they're talking about. I don't feel involved in the conversation. And it was okay. There has been a time that like I did have kind of crazy thinking, and I would critique everything he did, and like, well, it seems as if you're friendlier to her than you are to me. I mean, that's an exaggeration, but I do think that every action he had with his kids and with his ex-wife, I was overly sensitive to. And now I'm just at a place in our marriage that like we're good and nothing's going to come between that. And then also his ex-wife and I, we're good.
Yeah, that was the thing that was really very, it really made me happy and made me content in the situation because of your discussions. And like, there was a time when I went in the living room with the girls and our little boy RH, and Janee's in the kitchen talking to Shelly, and they're just in there chit chatting, and they're talking, and I hear them in there. Oh yeah. And so I think that was very, and I think when you go to someone's house or you're in their element, you kind of understand them more. And I know there was a lot of anticipation for this weekend because we didn't mention this part, the car. So that was another stressful thing this week, was we had to find a car. And if anybody out there knows what's going on right now in the car business,
it's not like we waited until the last minute.
It is crazy. It is totally crazy that, some cars that are 4 or 5 years old, people bought them 4 or 5 let's say a 5-year-old car, somebody bought it used a year old. They can sell those cars now for more than or probably what they paid for it. And so the car values, because there's a shortage of cars,
Can you tell
shortage of
he's
new
a car
cars.
guy?
Yeah, I'm a car
So
guy.
anyway, all of that to say, finding used cars that are good cars in this market is crazy and can take months.
And it's very expensive.
And so anyway, yes, that was added stress. And like we said, it just was great. And I would say that this is the craziest thing I've ever done. On many levels, I would have never thought that emotionally I could have handled this weekend, but I'm sure his ex-wife would have said the same thing.
Yeah.
And I will just, when you think there is no way you could ever get through a situation or be amicable, much less really enjoy one another, that is just not true, because I'm here to tell you anything is possible. But a couple of things that worked for us, just from my perspective, number one, like my friend Angie told me to do, really think about, how am I loving the Lord by loving not only my immediate family, but then also their family. And that means his ex-wife. And number two, owning my part. Like I said earlier, I made a lot of mistakes, and just being really vulnerable and owning that. And I think I might not have been bold enough for a phone call. I might have texted her and asked for forgiveness, but I did try to own my part. And then probably the third thing is for me, just being really intentional about being sure Randy has that special time with his daughters. I don't have to be in the middle of everything. I know growing up, my dad made time for just me, and that made me feel so special.
And that's difficult when you have 3 daughters. I mean, first of all, you have 3 daughters that during this period of time, you not only have to strategically plan to be with them because of 3 individual people, but you also them living in another city. So that makes it very, very difficult. I mean, just because you can't, your daughter can't call you from school and say, Daddy, I need a ride home from school, like they can here in Nakona. And so I think another important thing, there's been a couple of milestones that I think in our marriage, dealing with the girls, that were major, massive milestones. The first one was JH Ranch, because this youngest daughter, Maggie, that turned 16 2 years ago, Janee decided, we went on a couples retreat, Janee and I did. And on the way home, Janee said, I need to bring Maggie back for camp. I said, okay. She goes, next week. I'm like, okay, how's that going to work?
The camp was in California. We live in Texas. I mean, at last minute flights, but it all worked out.
It all worked out.
We went, and as awkward as it was a I think, relationship changing experience. And it doesn't have to be JH Ranch. I think just really that intentional time. I had a stepmom signed up for one of my mother-daughter retreats. I think finding anything that can kind of help forge that bond.
And then our oldest daughter, last year, before COVID hit, probably in January, we had proposed to our oldest daughter to come live with us during the summer. And so she thought about it.
I thought this was our middle daughter.
No, it was the oldest first.
Okay.
And we offered Miranda to come live with us. Well, she ended up getting a real good job at American Airlines, and she just loves her job. So she didn't end up coming to live with us and stay with us during the summer. And so Macy, the middle daughter, this year, Janee invited her to come live with us. And that was the sweetest, best time. I mean, for me, just having Macy here with us. And she worked, man, she went and got her a job at the Arc in Wichita Falls.
People with
special needs,
with mental disabilities.
And it's just so much fun when you see your children growing up and excelling. And I got the sweetest little card from Macy whenever she finished the summer here. So she worked for us some in our real estate business. And then she also worked this job in Wichita Falls.
But I have to say, you hear him talk about how sweet and endearing, and Macy is probably one of the easiest people to be around and just most helpful, certainly to live with. However, if you're a stepmom, then you get what I'm saying. It's just different.
Mm-hmm.
And Macy would say the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I think sometimes when things are different, we just automatically throw our hands up and go, that's difficult, so forget it. Instead of, it's different, let's do it.
Mm-hmm.
And
but I think Macy being here up until a month ago, I think that had a big part of this weekend working. I just do. I think that
Good point.
Macy's time here with us, and it was awesome. I mean,
but enough about us. I kind of feel like we've gone on about us, and y'all don't care. This was supposed to be fun, like crazy things that our spouses have done. And then all of a sudden we turned heavy. Dun, dun, dun. So seriously, I would personally love to hear, what is the craziest thing your spouse has done or made you do? Share it with me at Real Janee Hill. That's Janee. Let us know if you like me having Randy on. In the past, my podcasts have been
all about you.
Well, it's about women of excellence and that community and platform. And some things are changing. So get ready for some holy shift up in here.
If you like what you're hearing, please share this with a friend. And follow me at Real Janee Hill on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube.